Language distributes meaning about the place, and meaning has concomitant energy. So if you call someone something, at least some of your language kind of sticks to their reality or some aspect of it in some way, and becomes to some extent under their control. I mean, various things happen to it according to what you said and what it applied to. But in some circumstances, it could apply to things in a way that allows those things to interact with it and use it for themselves. Therefore, you have to be careful with your language, because you could give power to some things and lose power yourself. And you could also, well, just generally, without knowing what you're doing, you generally make a mess of the world the whole time. The whole world does. Language is, therefore, a magical power. Just as it's thought when people use it to do spells and so on, and or to hypnotize people, it gives meaning to things. That is probably what's happening in some way when the man when someone's told by a hypnotist to act like a dog. Some people never recover, and they end up in mental hospitals for life, or to think they're a dog, to be a dog or whatever. Real aspects of them may be changing in ways that are very real, and that they can't escape from. Like you can't escape from some things that are real, like a car accident. You're still you, but something was applied to you, some force, and it had a real effect on you, and as a result, you're harmed in some way. Some people are not harmed by this because they're different kinds of people, and some people are harmed by it. Different things react in different ways because they're different things. But there's something about language that's difficult to describe, really, when you've just sort of glimpsed it like I have. And it does have some ability to confer meaning to things, and the meaning itself seems to have characteristics that apply to things. Like when you put cordial in water, it has characteristics. And it's just difficult to explain, really, but these characteristics do have their own effects on things. I've only glimpsed it myself, so it's difficult to be fully sure of what's happening. But it seems to me like the world is very much more a complicated place than is commonly realized. Not just in terms of scientific theories, but which you can measure in the physical world, but in terms of abstract ideas having an effect on things. They also seem to have some sort of powers or abilities of their own. Maybe it's the spiritual realm. I think it must be in some way. It seems to be very real in a way that's just not known or admitted. Maybe the people who deny its power or reality or existence are aware of it and just don't want other people to know about it. That's possible. People say that NASA, for example, is very much into magic in a secret way that it doesn't tell anybody else. And they say a lot of MPs and people in power are into magic, like Bohemian Grove in America. Anyway, I just sort of glimpsed these things recently. I just sort of saw them and even slightly felt them. I was thinking things about things and just sort of noticed how various elements of my own thinking were changed by them. Like if you think someone's scary, and that changes your thinking about them. Somebody else doesn't think they're scary and has a different opinion of them, partly because they don't think they're scary. That's some people would say would just be simple psychology, but that doesn't matter if it's simple psychology. That's like saying an apple only falls because of gravity. It doesn't mean that gravity isn't real. It doesn't explain away gravity. And people might say, of course it does. It's only because you think, but that's again just to me. That's it. It's only because you thought something. It doesn't mean it's real. But that just dismisses an argument without considering it. I'm saying it is real, and they're not disproving it's real just by saying it's not real. There are real things attached to things. Like, for example, in the brain has electricity in it. And when you think a thought, you change all the electrical impulses in your brain. That's a real thing. People act like your thoughts should be under your control, but thoughts aren't always under your control. Say, for example, someone's your boss. That's a thought, and that's not something that you can control. If you try controlling or messing with that, your boss will often take offense and think that you don't have enough of a respectful attitude towards them or something, and that'll get you the sack. Then people will say, well, that's real. That's a physical reality. Well, it wasn't a physical reality until you got yourself the sack, was it? It was, according to you, it was a thought until you got the sack, and all of a sudden it's a physical reality. So make up your mind, is it a physical reality or a thought? And then they'll say, well, you're not adjusting to physical reality. Well, that's my point. There are physical realities that are interactive with thought. And then they'll give you all kinds of silly arguments, but the fact remains, so they're just basically ignoring. The fact remains that they're just basically ignoring realities, which are that some things are, there's an interaction between thought and reality. And they'll say, well, that's just sanity, and you're being insane by thinking that it's real. So am I insane to think sanity is real then? And then they'll say, well, sanity is just a product of the physical world anyway, of evolution anyway. So I'll say again, is that dependent on, is that thought being dependent on reality then? And they'll have to admit in the end, thought and reality do interact at times. Yeah, they really do. That's why if you think someone's scary, it's because you think that they may have a physical effect on you. So there is an interaction between thought and reality. We're told to be careful of strangers or aware of danger, like when crossing the road. There's definite interactions between thought and reality. And, they say if you stop being scared of someone, you free yourself of the power that person has over you. Well, again, there's an interaction of reality there. If they're genuinely a threat to you, it's no good having a non-scared attitude towards them. Even though if they think you think they're scary, they might attack you for it because they think that you're impugning them in some way. Like if you have a realistic attitude towards them that they're scary, they think you're impugning them. So you can have trouble from some people, whether you have a realistic attitude towards them or not. But again, this just shows how real and complex the astral psychological world is, because that person is then a physical danger in every reality, even if not everyone sees them that way, and even if they get away with pretending they're not. So it's just, that's actually a really good way of describing, a really good example of it, but of the reality of the psychic world. And people might then say, well, that's just making things unnecessarily complex, when they're just seeing things where there aren't things in the psychological realm. But the same might have always have been thought of gravity, really. People just thought things naturally fell or whatever. And now it's been found that there are all kinds of calculations that can be made, and refinements with regard to gravity and shape and so on, that and various calculations with chemistry that result in planes going through the air. And I think in the same way, there needs to be a careful examination of the psychic world, which I think is very real indeed. But this is not acknowledged even at all. I think precisely because the people who are in charge of it do use it for their own purposes. They have indeed made their own calculations, and they do indeed carefully use it for their own benefit. And they have most people don't know this, and as a result, these bad people who are manipulative of the psychic realm are able to get away with all kinds of bad things. And they don't want their victims to know about it, and most people are their victims. So as a result, they don't want they want to keep themselves safe from their victims by denying the reality of these things. But in fact, they deserve the same consideration as the physical world. Fortunately, we do already have some way of helping ourselves against these people who mistreat others in the psychic realm so that they can control them, which is what happens when we experience the world in physical terms only, which most people do, or so many people do, or rather the children of God do. Fortunately, we do have help, and that help is God, and He will indeed help us. We just need to read the Bible, the Christian Bible, and the Old Testament, which is also in the Christian Bible, and we need to follow it and be rescued from the misuse of the psychic world, which is what will happen if we follow the Bible. God will rescue us from the misuse of the psychic world. The bad people are the children of Satan, the Nephilim, and they can be redeemed if they want to be, but most of them don't want to be and may never want to be, and as a result will end up burning in hell. But those of us who want to be redeemed, to be saved, can be by becoming Christians and following the Word of God as set out in the Bible. So we can be helped and we can save ourselves. And we don't really need to wait around trying to save ourselves from these wicked, bad people who mistreat us in the physical world by controlling us in the psychic world. We can be saved more quickly than needing to struggle through anything scientific or and we don't need to put ourselves in their hands while they tell us they're various helpers like scientists or doctors of various kinds, and then mistreat us some more and keep misleading us and lying to us about things. We can be saved independently of them by being Christians. So that's what we should be, because that will save us. Thanks for listening. Bye.